I'm not sure what to say. Yeah, I'm going to sit over here with the class and say.
All right, so if anyone's just joining us, we've been sitting here. This is Joe here, Charles. We're going to be starting in about 10 minutes.
Wow, you're live streaming that?
Yeah!
That's pretty cool.
Don't stop coming because we're live streaming.
Yeah, now I can just sit at home.
Exactly.
We were trying to do a show and they put in the analysis of this one impact. And they said, oh, this was the local government downstate money. We got to extend that to reduce the amount of camera farmers. We don't have the idea of trying to reduce. Right. So, okay. How's that? Yeah. What's all What's your impression?
Yeah, and that was me.
Stay with us.
You'll never see this, so I'm here to show you this.
It's amazing
Freedom.
I mean, I can't even make up so much.
Everybody say it, right? That's right.
Podcast that navigator, I can't handle that almost every day.
It's out there again.
Yeah, but very good.
I mean, it's just,
all right.
I didn't hear about it.
I
His downside is he's already got it done.
Yes. If I wanted to they can call they don't have to.
Exactly. I'm gonna secure the light.
So that's my. So be right here, we're gonna shut the sound off so you can hear better.
Is it low?
You have to talk right into the mic.
Or this? Correct. It's my brother, man. We're stalling for a little bit of time because we got some people traveling up on this. I'm not trying to figure out how to make work best. So we actually have a libertarian lobbyist in the room. I guess we got two. But one has been volunteered to step up and give us a little lowdown on what's going on with legislation happening right now. Yeah, I'm going to pass the mic over.
Good evening, everybody. As you said, a libertarian lobbyist, and everybody familiar with our group, Liberty First Network? Everybody familiar with our group organization? No, I know we talked to you guys. We all. Anyhow, Liberty First Network is dedicated to expanding liberty and reducing the size of government in Tallahassee. So what we do is we're actually on the ground in Tallahassee. We're speaking to committees, we're speaking to legislators, and we just basically there in person to push the libertarian agenda. So just wanted to, while we're waiting for some more folks to show up, just ask that I give you kind of an update on what's going on in Tallahassee and some of the bills that are being filed. So a couple of bills right off the bat that you might be interested in. One's called open carry. Yeah. Y'all familiar with open carry? So that's actually doing pretty good so far. It's passed two committees in the House, two committees in the Senate. So it's moving right now. So but if you have an opportunity, if you're not on Liberty First Network, we do send out emails letting you know when the committees are up and when the bill's going to be heard. And it's important that they hear from us. The phone calls do make a difference. So we've been pushing this bill through some committees, and we got to continue on. Yes, sir.
You said it's by two in both the House and Senate.
Yeah. it's got, I believe, just one more committee stop in each, one in the House and one in the Senate. So then it would go to a full 4 vote on the Senate and the House. So we're getting close. I can tell you that it's going to be a huge fight because the anti-gun crowd is showing up in force and spreading propaganda and false claims about the use of guns. Florida is only one of 5 states that does not have open carry. 45 states have open carry. So there's been no disasters in these 45 states. It's not the wild, wild west. It's just something we all should be doing. Yes, sir.
Now, I think there's a difference between what constitutional carry and open carry. It means open carry with a license and
right. So if you have a concealed weapons permit,
okay,
you would be allowed to open carry. You know, carry it on your side. But it's not what they call constitutional carry, is where you don't have to have any kind of permit whatsoever. You can just carry a weapon.
Okay. And only a couple of states have that, or?
Yeah, I believe probably Wyoming, I think, has it. And Arizona, yeah, a couple of states. But you know, one step at a time. So we'll try to get open carry. Another one that's similar is called campus carry, where people would be allowed to have either a concealed weapon, or if this passes open, would be able to carry a weapon onto Florida campuses. 8 states currently have that. Utah has had a campus carry for 8 years, and they have reported no incidents. You know, again, you hear people show up to testify at these committees, and they'll go, "Oh, it's going to be the students are going to get mad about their grade, and they're going to shoot their teacher," and all this wild stuff that just doesn't happen in the real world. So that too, as well, is moving through the committees. I believe it's the same. It has about 1 more committee stop in each, the Senate and the House. So there again, but the big fight yet to come. Okay. So again, if you can help us out, we need everybody to make phone calls on these, because as these bills continue to move, the other side, the anti-gun crowd, are going to double and triple their efforts. So they're really going to pull out all the stops. So really need your help. If you can, again, go to Liberty First Network. So it's libertyfirstfl.org is the website. libertyfirstfl.org. You can sign up for our email alerts, and we'll send you alerts as to when the committee is meeting and who to call and the email address. We give you everything to try to make it as easy as possible. Another bill that we're working really hard on is a bill to repeal the use of red light cameras. So that's been a tough fight over the years. We've had these bills before, and at the end of the day, the big government types who want the revenue from these have been winning the battle. But the tide is changing. People, more and more legislators are realizing that these are just a revenue. This is really just like a hidden tax. I was just telling Jim about this. They did a study, because they tried, actually what works is lengthening the yellow lights. That actually will save lives. It's proven around the country to save lives. And so when we had a bill 2 years ago to lengthen the yellow lights, when they did an analysis of it on the fiscal impact, they said if we increase the yellow lights by a half second, it will reduce red light camera violations.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
I thought we wanted to reduce red light camera violations, right? Yeah. So that told me right there, this is about revenue.
It is.
And it's not about saving lives. A state test was done to show that there's been no lives that have been saved, that the amount of accidents through red light camera running has not increased. I mean, it has not decreased on average since cameras have come in. So that's another one. So that's 3 big ones. So if we could just do that this year, if we could get open carry, campus carry, and we could repeal the use of red light cameras, it'd be a pretty good year, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
So we really need your help on these. Again, the big government types are going to be fighting for the red light cameras. they're not gonna wanna give up the money, so, we need to fight.
I just heard on Tom Woods that 24 or 26 states have the freedom to try. Are you familiar with the freedom to try?
Yeah.
How's that doing in Florida?
They had a version of that passed last year, but it didn't include marijuana. So, you know, it's a freedom
Well,
to
it's
try.
mainly like on
It was an
FDA
approved list of,
drugs and stuff like that.
yeah,
or-
they did pass one last year, but it was
Oh, okay.
a very short approved list of, you know, the type of drugs that they could try. And marijuana was not on that list, so as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's not really freedom to try. It's freedom to try what the government says you're free to try. It's not true freedom to try. But anyhow, I appreciate the opportunity. And again, go to libertyfirstfl.org, sign up for the email alerts if you're not getting them. We need your help. We could have a great year for libertarian causes this year. And thank you for the time.
Thank you for making yourself available. A couple of technical things going on up here. Checking the mic. So a couple reminders. We are taking donations, and there's a glass jar up there. If you guys can put your way there before you leave, that'd be awesome. I want to also make us all aware that Alex Snickers in the room. He's with Florida PAC, or Libertarian PAC, rather. Apologize. And one of the amendment initiatives he's got going on is for legalizing marijuana. Sorry. Which you can learn more about at floridafreedomgroup.com, and we have several of these on the table over there if you guys are able to sign up. That'd be great. I appreciate that. And solar. What's that? And solar. Did I already talk about donations? I think I did, right? Thank you.
Solar.
Solar. Sorry.
He heard stalling.
There's two solar initiatives going on. One's industry sponsored, one's free market focused. That's the one we're doing. I think it's called Solar Choice. Someone wants to wave at me if that's right or wrong. At least Solar Choice is the one we're backing as a Libertarian Party of Florida.
That's right.
Okay, thanks. It's all very confusing. It's the same words over and over again. Solar this, solar that. Other things I want to mention, University of South Florida is right down the road, USF, and on November 21st in the Marshall Student Center, room 2709, we're having a 4-hour conference / debate / some local politicians will be speaking. Brian Cole's our contact for that. And he has this piece of paper. I don't see a website, but certainly you can go to our website. We'll have the information up in a couple of days. lphc.org. Anything I'm forgetting? Anybody on here? Okay, super. So the main event, as you've all come out to see, is Mr. Jim Babka. He's with us tonight. Let's give him a big applause. And for those of you who haven't been reading up, some of his work is Downsize DC, which is, I guess, probably 10 years in the making effort on your part. A little more than 10 years in the making. He's been fighting a war, trying to cut our expenditures there in Washington, D.C. for quite a long time. He's got a ton of experience in the political arena, and tonight he's going to be speaking to us about a zero aggression principle. Not quite the same as the non-aggression plank of our party, but we're going to learn more about that. I think we're going to pull this table out of the way. Messing with this mojo. I'm going to shut up now. You can clap. I hand the mic over to the man. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it working? Now. Oh, wow. The other one. Can I get let's try this.
It's on now.
Does it have to be close? Okay, well, this one's later.
Pass me that one, Kev, for
All
the
right.
questions from the audience. I'll get the cord out of the way.
Yeah, we'll trade when that comes. So I'm told that I have to stand really far away from you so that I can be seen in the lights by the thousands of people who are watching it. All right.
Yay, we like thousands of people.
Yes, I am Jim Babka and did co-create the DownsizeDC.org organization that some of you are familiar with, and now the Zero Aggression Project, and that's largely what I'll be talking about tonight. And I'll try to keep my remarks fairly brief, although I do have quite a presentation here with some points because a moment of personal disclosure, I'm a bit of a masochist. I think some of you here will relate to this. The Cleveland Browns are on Thursday night football here in this bar, and I would like to see how they're doing before Cincinnati brings their backup quarterback in, because the score's been run up so high. But you guys are Tampa Bay fans, so you feel my pain. You understand. So let's talk a little bit tonight about the Zero Aggression Project. I titled this talk, How One Voluntarist Can Make Florida a Libertarian Place. You know, in fact, tonight, the number one word that I'm going to use again and again, in fact, since we're in a bar, we can even make a drinking game out of it if you want. We get a lot of fun that way. Is every time I say the word one, you can take a drink, because that really is the key thought tonight. I want to talk to you, and this will basically form the outline for my presentation, about the power of one principle, the power of one person, and the power of one strategy, but not in that order. Man, I'm off my game. One principle, one strategy, one person. I really need to be out there with you guys. This is weird. Okay.
Well, you're not separate anymore.
Yeah, I'm not, but I'm not on YouTube anymore, I'm told, if I move away.
You can
from
wander
this
around.
line.
I'm on the turret here, so we can steer it at you.
All right. So let me start with the principle. What if you had a principle so powerful, so potent, that if someone understood it, if they agreed with you about it, that everything else would fall into place? They would understand the libertarian message. They would agree with you. What if you had a principle like that? I've been a libertarian for about 20 years now, and in the time that I've been that, I've had a lot of political discussions, and I've met a lot of libertarians, and I've watched them have political discussions, and we debate issues pretty much the way anybody else does. I call this approach the war of competing studies. I throw my policy study at you, you throw your policy study at me, you have facts, I have figures, and if none of that works, pretty soon one of us is calling each other names. And this is how we discuss politics. So just for sake of example, so you can really understand what it is that I'm attempting to say here, let me use the issue of guns. It was mentioned already. Let's talk about the issue of the Second Amendment and guns and gun rights.
Yes.
And I'm going to talk, I want to make clear who I am first, so that you can understand that, because I'm going to do a little role playing here in a second. I don't want anybody to get confused or concerned as I do. Back home in my home state of Ohio, I conceal carry. My pistol goes with me everywhere. In fact, I feel a little bit naked here this evening without it. And usually it's the audience that's supposed to be naked. So, okay. So as I say this, please understand that I very much support these rights. But let's pretend that we're having a dialogue, and you say to me, Jim, we have to have private guns, voluntary ownership of guns is a good thing. The more guns we have, the less crime we have. Violent crime goes down. Home invasions go down. And then I could respond to you, and I could say, well, yeah, that's true, but in the cases of attempted suicide or domestic violence, the presence of a gun in the home makes the outcome worse, and there's the inevitable childhood accidents. Now, what just happened there is that both of us had facts, and both of those facts happen to be true. But what's even more interesting is why each side chooses the argument they choose. I contend that they didn't choose that argument because of the facts. There was no policy study you could have thrown at them that would have changed their mind. This was a value question for them. And coincidentally, the libertarian concept is based on a value. It's based on a principle, and that's called the zero aggression principle. Now, you may have heard of it referred to as the non-aggression principle, the NAP, which is very restful. We can all go to sleep now. A lot of people accuse us of being pacifist. We wanted to pick a more electrifying name, our acronym, the ZAP. We call it the zero aggression principle. And if you're involved with the Libertarian Party, you're familiar with the concept. The idea is that it is wrong, it is immoral to initiate force against other persons. You can't go around bullying and beating people up to get your way. And if you don't have that power, you certainly can't give it to your neighbor, especially the most elite of those neighbors. You know, the ones that went to Yale and Harvard and then end up serving us in Washington, D.C. We don't have that power to give. It doesn't belong to us. So it is wrong for us to initiate force, and it's wrong for us to delegate that to politicians. Now, when I advocate this idea, I'm told that it's utopian. It's strange. Why, there's a lot of aggression in the world, and we have to be prepared to fight. Why, you libertarians, you're like, you don't understand. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and you're walking around in milk-bone underwear. The fact is, almost everybody, not just here, but out in the bar, outside, is a libertarian in their day-to-day life. They don't walk around pointing guns at people, walking around with sticks, trying to get their way through violent force. Most of them practice an ethic that looks an awful lot like the golden rule. The golden rule. The way that we treat the people that we care about, that we want to have a relationship with. Would you prefer we switch this?
I'm fine, but
okay.
Change it.
All right, well, no, I'm just not sure if it's okay. I just want to make sure. The golden rule is the ethic of every world religion, several secular philosophical systems, and most people, even if they're not the least bit religious, believe it and practice it. But we libertarians aren't even asking for anything that much. We're not saying do anything. We're saying don't do. Leave others alone. Call it a silver rule if you wish. Don't go around hitting other people, sticking your nose in their business. Now, the interesting thing about this, part of the power of this principle, and I want you to understand the power of it, is that most people want to believe themselves to be good people. Most people, when they look in the mirror, want to look at somebody and say, that's a good person. And they want you to believe that they're good people. So when you begin discussing things, starting from a zero-aggression principle, instead of a war of competing study, you can have a slightly different discussion. You see, they're not connecting the dots. They're not seeing that the policies that they're advocating, when they start talking politics, the ugliness that begins to come out of their mouth, when they start talking about other human beings that aren't in their partisan club, they're not seeing that all of a sudden they're violating the golden rule. They're not seeing the consequences of their initiated violence. So it's a powerful, powerful concept. And it changes the dynamic. And as we've begun, my partner Perry Willis and I, as we began to create the Zero Aggression Project and began going out and having conversations with people like this, we found that this was a radically different discussion. Very, very different. But I think that the only way that we're going to get people, and this, by the way, dovetails with our very first goal. We have 3 goals of the Zero Aggression Project, and the first goal is that we want to share this principle with everyone. We want everyone in the world to know what the Zero Aggression Principle is, and to say, okay, what's a libertarian? Oh yeah, they're the ones that believe in the Zero Aggression Principle. We want to make it so familiar that no one finds it strange. You see, I had a question that came up after I spoke last night. So going off script just a little bit, I want to say to you, one of the reasons that we're not having as much success when we're sharing our ideas or trying to convert other people to our position is that it's just not out there. It's not on television, it's not on radio, it's not being broadcast, it's not part of the everyday discussion and dialogue. People need social proof. A lot of people do before they're going to adopt an idea. So you could say all the brilliant things in the world, but it's not going to be you alone that needs to do it. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. That social proof concept, we want to get this message out everywhere, and that's our first goal. And I want to say this here, I want to say that our goal, the key word there was share. When I say to you that there are some libertarians that have a bad bedside manner, do you understand what I'm saying? When I say that there are some libertarians that really prefer to shut up, do you know what I mean? What if we stopped arguing? Harkening back to our gun debate. You know, if we managed to convince somebody on that one issue, we'd still have the whole rest to convince them on. And if we convinced them on that issue, would that make them a libertarian? But what if we stopped trying to convince them? What if instead we just simply shared? What if we viewed arguing with people as maybe a little bit of a form of aggression itself? And instead we just plant the seed. Here's a way of thinking about it. There's a parable in the Bible called the parable of the sower. It says that someone comes along and plants the seeds, and other people come along and water and weed, Some of the seeds fall in good fertile soil, some in rocky and they don't grow. But the point of the parable is that you may not be there to see. If you were the person that planted the seed, you may not be there to be the one to see the harvest. You may not see the day that things click. And I want you to imagine for a moment, switching metaphors just a bit, I want you to imagine a moment where you've shared this principle with somebody, and you've had conversations with them, maybe even over a period of years, and one day they're sitting in front of their television, and something happens on the TV, and they blur out the exact words that you first said to them. You see, you don't change anybody's mind. Everyone changes their own mind. Their mind belongs to them. They change their mind. And that idea was sitting in there like a mental depth charge, just waiting for the right day to go off from the day that you planted it. So in order to help facilitate this sharing conversation at the Zero Aggression Project, you see there the brain with the gears in it. That's the mental levers tab. If you click on that, these are short tools. And here's the way I was thinking about this when we created these tools, which I'll explain here in a moment, is having the perfect book to loan. Now, every libertarian, if you say, what book would you loan if you wanted to share our ideas, would have a different book in mind. And then we'll, of course, tell you what's wrong with that book, because we're libertarians. We've got to find fault. But when you hand a book to people, does it get read? So what we said is we wanted to come up with some short, bite-sized items. These mental levers are short items. Starting with the, you can go to Zero Aggression Basics if you want there for people to see it. That's just click on the mental levers, leverage thinking, and you can go into that bar right there. Click on that down arrow bar where it says mental levers and leverage thinking. Okay.
Down arrow bar. Mental levers.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Yes, yeah, okay, well that's the page that talks about how the mental levers work. And if you actually go and look at these, you'll find that they are short answers, usually 200 to 400 words, where you can, these are tools that you can use to share. We talk about what the Zero Aggression Principle is. We talk about a host of related ideas, other objections and comments and concerns that come up. And you can just use these to share in a non-confrontational way. In this day of the internet, in this era of social media, these tools are ideal. And there are people in this room already who are using them. And so I encourage you to check out these mental levers. I told you that we also had one strategy. And I have to lay some foundation before we talk about this. We have a central strategic need as libertarians. There's one thing that if we had it would make all the difference. One thing that undergirds and would uplift every single strategy that anyone could possibly be pursuing right now in the libertarian movement. If you want to get candidates elected or stop bad ones, defeat them. If you want to pass laws or you want to defeat bad laws, if you want to change how the media is covering an issue, there's one thing that we need that we're missing right now. It can be summed up in 2 words. More libertarians. We need more libertarians. There are not enough of us. We don't have the money because there's not enough of us. We don't have the manpower because there's not enough of us. We don't have all the ranges of talents and the top skills that we need because there are not enough of us. We don't have the time and the people who are dedicated to getting everything done that needs to get done because there are not enough of us. We don't have the candidates, they don't win. There are not enough of us. We need more libertarians. Well, that happens to dovetail with our second goal. We wanted to locate, identify, and activate the 1 in 5 Americans who already self-identify as libertarians. But the fact is that when Gallup and these other national polling organizations have asked people where they stand, anywhere between 1 in 5 and 1 in, let's say, 6.5 have self-identified as libertarians when they could have chosen to be liberal or conservative or something else. They said, I'm a libertarian. These are people then who are receptive potentially to our ideas. And internally in our organization, we have this concept that we call discovery before persuasion. I didn't say discovery instead of persuasion because it's important always to put your best foot forward, to make a good first impression, to use your most powerful arguments. But I'm saying that discovery comes first. That in order for us to get to the point where we can get the social proof that I spoke of earlier, in order to get to the point where we can spread our message everywhere, every day, we first need to get enough people together to help make that possible. We need more libertarians too. And I practice what I preach. I eat my own cooking. We have forms that we're going to circulate here tonight. I don't know. Yes, we have forms we're going to circulate tonight because I want you to get on my email list. I want you to be involved and see what we're doing and be a part of it. At least observe it. At least be on the list. At least be aware of it. We need more libertarians. And with those libertarians then, we hope to get to the point that we can reach out and get more libertarians until we can begin to reach and move the entire public and move them a little bit more in our direction. Now, to help facilitate that, we've come up with some interactive tools on our website. There's a top page of the page, there's a navigation mark, there's a question mark up there. Ask, what do you think? And we have created there an interactive tool, highly interactive. It deals with the exceptions that people make to the zero Russian principle. They say, well, we need some force, we need some government violence here or there. They're making some exception to the rule. So we've begun developing campaigns. There's 5 of them up there now. We've already got 30 slated that are in some various stages of draft that we're working on right now. Dealing with issues, the kind that you're usually debating about, but in a very different way. Using the zero Russian principle and using these concepts, these empathetic principles that you might find in a role-to-role type sense. The tool itself is designed to be very interactive. So people come in and they literally register their vote. How do they feel about what they just read? Do they agree with it, disagree? Has it changed their opinion any? And then they can see how they and everyone else has voted, how much movement there's been forward and away from our direction. And the fact of the matter is, we're reporting whether we're winning or losing. And we provide a petition when they decide they've had enough. And they say, yes, I agree, or I disagree, and here's where I stand. And we're even reporting the people who disagree with us. We're giving them a voice. So there's a real dialogue that's going on there. But it's very different. I don't have time to go through this tonight. I'm hoping you'll go home and check this out. But let me give you just one little flavor of what it is that we do there. One of the campaigns that we have deals with drug prohibition. And in the case of drug prohibition, in every one of these campaigns, we have a panel that asks the following question. Just imagine for a moment that you could voluntarily, it's your choice, the same way when you're paying all of your bills and making out those last couple of checks to the charities of your choice. You could make a choice to support drug prohibition or fill in the blank. That you can write a check. This month I want to give $15 to the war on drugs. If you had a choice, would you write the check? That's one of the questions we ask. You see, because I happen to believe that people aren't going to write that check, even if they agree. Most people don't think of the government that way. The money's already been stolen from them. It's off in Washington. By God, if it's already off over there, they ought to be doing something with it. I don't like drug addicts. Why don't they do something about that? But if we get them to kind of reframe their thoughts, now you're going to sit down and pay for it. You're the one that gets to decide, not a politician, not your neighbors. How are you going to respond then? And that's just one example of some of the unique things that we're doing over there at the Zero Aggression Project. Finally, I want to talk about one person, the power of one person. And this dovetails with our third goal, which is that we want to move everyone in a voluntarist direction. Now, when I say voluntarist, what does I mean? What am I talking about? Well, voluntarist is someone who really believes in the zero aggression principle, that there's no exceptions to this. But they take in the complete picture. It's not just that they recognize that the initiation of force leads to awfully bad policies and terrible outcomes, that it makes things worse, that it's expensive and clumsy and inefficient. But they also see that they also believe in their heart that it's just plain wrong. A voluntarist believes these ideas so strongly, not just in their head, but in their heart, in their gut. Now, why is this important? Because we have a tactic that is available to us right now that can be implemented, that doesn't require us to march, doesn't require us to get petitions together, doesn't require us to get media attention, doesn't require us to form meetings, clubs, doesn't require us to raise any money. Any one of us can implement this when we have the opportunity without any of those things. And that is that we have the power that when someone is in the dock someone is charged with a crime that shouldn't have even existed, a law that shouldn't have happened, they can hang a jury. We call it jury nullification.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I want you to imagine for a second that you're in a room with 11 other angry people who are doing what the judge told and they just want to go home. They didn't want to be there in the first place. Hang the guy and let's go. At that moment, it's going to require it to be in your heart. It's going to require that it be in your gut. And it's going to require that level of conviction that this is flat out wrong.
Amen.
You see, one of the reasons I love this zero aggression principle is that you talk to somebody, on the right, and they'll try to pretend that, oh, somehow we're more moral than you. But you use a jackboot and a billy club and a machine gun to get your way. You hurt people, you put them in prison. Or you'll get the left statist who will say that they're more compassionate than you. But what happens if someone disagrees? You steal their property, and if they resist, you throw them in jail, or you kill them. They don't have an advantage on some morality. They don't have an advantage on us in compassion. When we start talking about values, I believe we win. Now, I want to just illustrate how powerful this nullification strategy is. I did a little research before I came here about Florida. There are 11.446 million people registered to vote in the state of Florida. Their highest recent turnout election was 2012, 72%, which meant that in order to be elected President of the United States, you needed about 4.2 million votes. Now, jury nullification. The pool of potential jurors is taken from licensees, and that group is slightly larger. There are 13.67 million licensed drivers in the state of Florida. If you divide that number by 12, so you get one good juror in there, we are now down to 1.139 million people. But I'm talking to a libertarian audience, and I want to say that I don't believe it's going to take that many people to change things, to change how juries function, to change how prosecutors work. I'm talking to a libertarian crowd, and you guys understand economics. You enjoy talking about economics. You get economics. If I was talking to a Bernie Sanders group, it would take a very long time for me to explain the following concept. You know what a margin is. And if you're someone who is responsible for a profit and loss statement in a business, or you have to meet a payroll, you understand very well what margin is. You know that the margin is the difference between success and failure. Well, marginally speaking, how many times does a prosecutor have to lose before they decide, I'm not going to pursue a drug charge. I'm not going to pursue this charge where they didn't pay this little fee or this little tax. How often do they have to fail before they say, my score isn't good enough anymore. I'm not going to pursue these kinds of cases. Is it 1 out of 2? 1 out of 3? Well, if it's 1 out of 3, the number of people that we have to find that agree with us goes down to 379,000 people in the entire state of Florida. And folks, 147,000 people voted for Ron Paul in a Republican primary. So I want to suggest to you that we can do this. This is something this is low-hanging fruit because, as Thomas Jefferson ably pointed out to us, all government rests upon the consent of the governed. I have friends up in Keene, New Hampshire. They have done a lot to stand up to the government up there. And one of the things that they did right off the bat, when the law was illegitimate and they felt that a judge was behaving inappropriately by having that hearing, when they did to show their disdain or disrespect for a court they believed was behaving illegally, when the bailiff said, all rise, when the judge came in, they would sit. Now, the first couple of times this happened, the bailiffs went crazy. They grabbed him, tried to stand him up, and ended up holding him in contempt of court and hauling him out. There was only 2 or 3 of them at that point. It was a brand new tactic.
Wow.
In Keene, New Hampshire now, when they're bringing somebody in on one of these Mickey Mouse charges, 25, 30, 35 other people show up to support their friend who's standing up. And when the bailiff says all rise, they remain seated. And you know what? Quietly, the judge walks up to his seat and sits down. That's it. The law's not enforced anymore. The rule's not enforced. No one's held in contempt. So I believe we have a lot more power than we could possibly realize, and we really don't need that many more of us. But I do think we need more of us. So I want to give you this story, this thought, as we wrap up. We have a donor who's influenced me profoundly as we've been building this, who has guided us forward and said, this is what we need to talk about, this principle. And he's the first guy that I've met with means, who understands that we need more libertarians. And so we've been talking about how to get this done. And he's in a special class. This is the guy who gives a couple $1 million to libertarian groups every year. And he said, Jim, he said, a lot of people come out to visit me here, and they're nice guys, nice people, nice guys and gals, and I usually like them. I usually enjoy meeting them. And they come out and they present ideas, and they've got good programs that seem interesting. And like any good investor, I kind of spread my contributions out over these nice groups with nice people, hoping that somehow or other it's adding up to something. But he says every one of these donations is a faith-based gift. I have no way of knowing whether or not this one or that one is really doing a much better job of moving us towards our intended goal. I have no way of knowing whether or not these are really working. It's a faith-based investment. But he said, you know what I want? What I really want to see? I want to see a libertarian persuasion and recruitment machine. I want to see a tool that moves people in our direction. I want to see a tool that delivers libertarians to us. I'm talking about, you have X input. This many people come in and they interact then with our ideas. And when they come out the other side, Y number of libertarians results. You can quantify X to Y. We know what that number is. And he said, if we can get to the point where we can connect that dot and we can make that predictable, that's not a faith-based donation anymore. That's real results. And he said, if that could happen, I would get on my plane. He has a plane. Wow. And I would go meet with other people similarly situated, and I would come back with at least $25 million for X to pour into the machine. To go out and broadcast these ideas wide so that we can get people interactive with these ideas. Now, our intention in building the Zero Aggression Project is to begin taking a stab at using our principle to build a persuasion and recruitment machine. And I want to say something that may come across as a surprise to you. I have no idea whether or not it'll work. You see, most experiments fail. So the goal isn't for these tactics to be the ones that we use. These are the first ones we're trying. The goal is to figure out how to build the machine. I don't even know if it can be done, but I certainly want to try because I'm excited about what could happen if we did it. I want to see that $25 million get invested. I want to see us have so many more libertarians working with us at our side. So we're committed to that goal more than we are to any specific tactic that I've spoken to you about tonight. But it's very important for me to start with discovery before persuasion, the low-hanging fruit of asking you, as I'm here in Florida, to sign up to be on our email list. And in fact, if you do that, we have some gifts we're going to do as a drawing for 5 people here tonight. So that's extra incentive, if you will, to sign up and be on our email list so that you can keep up to date with what we're doing here. And also at Downsides DC, where we are famous for our Read the Bills Act, our Write the Laws Act, and our 173 contract. I thank you very much for having me and for listening to me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Do you have a few minutes for some questions and answers?
Sure.
All right, so who has a question? I'll just do it from the fly. We have a young lady. She's like about 6, maybe 7. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So here I have made up a joke. Okay. Here we go. Yes, it's funny. Okay. So kid says, I want some more, and the woman says, and the mom says, he wants more what? And the kid says, I want some more liberty.
Yes.
Good job, honey, good job. We all give the applause for Libby.
She gets homeschool credit.
Homeschool credit. Anybody else have a question here?
Tim?
One more question.
Are you a Rand supporter, or are you a Rand not like his father guy?
I like Rand. I've met Rand, and I'm pleased to say that he has introduced all three of our bills: the Read the Bills Act, the Right to Laws Act, and the One Step at a Time Act. And I think he's the best United States Senator we have.
I got a question. So I think this is a fabulous concept, helping people to choose for themselves, and that's purely libertarian all to itself. Instead of being a strong push sales thing, you just simply empower them to see the light. I guess the question I had for you is, I was watching some of your videos, and I know you've taken the path you've taken. How do you see our landscape as far as running candidates goes? I personally believe we should enter races when there's at least 3 other people competing for a position that gives us, chance of winning with 26.5% of the vote. But versus, running campaigns versus running, political action efforts, whether it's a ballot initiative or just lobbying, where do you see us making the biggest difference?
Well, first of all, I came up to the Libertarian Party. That was how I got started. I was attracted in by Harry Brown. In fact, the things we're going to be giving away tonight is some Harry Brown memorabilia here in a couple of minutes. So Harry Brown recruited me into the Libertarian Party and the movement, and I worked on his campaign in 2000. I worked professionally. I was actually paid to work in 3 different Libertarian campaigns. I was state chair of the Libertarian Party of Ohio. We went from running 1 candidate, and 2 years later, because we were able to get ballot access, being able to run 70, which still stands as a record. So I have a great affection for the people of the Libertarian Party and what it is that they're attempting to do, and some good memories. I think that there's one thing that needs to be done even first before that, and that's why I'm working on this Zero Russian project. I think we have to have more people who agree with us. I think that the strategy of trying to run in elections is very, very difficult. The one thing that I have against it, if I were to say I have something against it, is the rate of attrition that we have in the Libertarian Party is horrible. People get discouraged. They have expectations. They can't see to a long game. Someone said to me something very profound last night. A guy who used to be on the national committee that was at the event last night said to me, he's like, when Ed Clark won in 1980, I thought, okay, we got this many votes. Now these people will join us and we'll get some more. And our great candidate for governor is going to have all these votes, and he plummeted. They got a fourth of what they had gotten, or a fifth of what they'd gotten. I don't even remember what the numbers were 2 years before. And so, and this stuff discourages people when they quit. The people that were with me when we started our county chapter in 1996. Almost all of them are gone. In fact, I don't have any contact with most of them, but they've left the Libertarian Party. I don't know of too many of them that are still involved anymore. And so I want to overcome that discouragement as much as I can by getting as many people involved as we can, so that when it comes time to start having electoral success, we have more and we don't have that attrition issue.
Beautiful, thanks. What a question for the gentleman over here.
I appreciate what you said. I've listened to you for some time. I used to work with Jerry Hughes on Straight Talk.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that
every
program.
Friday.
Yeah.
I miss Jerry.
And he taught me radio. So when I wanted to come see you because it brings back memories. Wonderful those times. So
yes.
I appreciate how you're always thinking outside the box. Even back then, I'd listen to you and Jerry go on and get into the really nitty-gritty that you don't hear a lot in the mainstream discussions, really dissecting these issues. I have come to the conclusion that we need to look at culture as something that we need to shift in introducing a more nonviolent society. So I just want to know what your thoughts were on using the symbols and stories surrounding Jesus as a historical figure without getting into the theological concepts or religious debates and all that kind of thing, to merely use the historical person of Jesus and all the symbols that come around that, which if you really look at it with a serious look, it's a very non-violent story that's all about deconstructing the hidden violence of the powers of the government and what have you. 70% of Americans claim to be Christians. And so there's a lot of fertile ground there, and some people may not be able to understand principles, but if we can tell them the story of Jesus and show how it connects to using the nonviolent or the zero aggression principle through what he does, you can connect with, immigrant workers in Immokalee, Florida, picking tomatoes, Ferguson, Missouri, rally protesters, a whole swath of people that we can't connect with right now through argumentation. So,
thank you. First of all, I miss Jerry profoundly. I did this show every Friday for almost 5 years before he passed away, and I got to even guest host it a couple of times. And those discussions, it was the end of my work week, and those discussions, it was my favorite hour of the week. I happen to be a believer. My partner Perry Willis is not. He's a skeptic. Being a libertarian, you don't have to be either one. And one of the things I love about libertarians is that you could come to a libertarian meeting and sitting right next to each other with no animosity between them can be a pastor and a pornographer. I mean, we have room for liberty here. We don't have to shoot each other. It is no accident that I appeal to the golden rule, though, as I'm talking about this. And it's my own personal belief that the primary message of God is love. God says flat out, he equals love. Not that it was his character or something, but that he is love. And that Jesus said that his two greatest commandments were to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And then we, of course, know that the rule that we call golden is do unto others as we would have done unto us. So I think that this is a very, very, very important concept. I can say a great deal more about it, but it's not Sunday, and most we're in a bar, not a church. I would just say that we have to find a way to talk to the 70% of the American population. And one of the reasons I was raised as a fundamentalist as a kid, came out of the evangelical wing of the movement. If it weren't for evangelicals, we wouldn't be in all these wars in the Middle East. It really is just that basic. They are a linchpin. They are a necessary support to the military-industrial complex and to the neoconservative agenda, which has continued under Barack Obama in the Middle East. They said they were going to target 6 countries for regime change. The latest one on that list is Syria. They said it all the way back in 2003.
Yeah.
We've got independent verification from 2 different people, including a former retired general, Wesley Clark, who had said that, yes, they were already targeting 6 different nations, including Syria. And so, and this is so tied up with the way a large portion of our neighbors and friends view their Bible, view Israel, view prophecy. We have to have this discussion with them. We've got to show them what it is if they really believe and hold a mirror up to it. We have to have this discussion. Otherwise, we're not going to advance. Some of those people need to be in this room with us. And so there needs to be an open space for them to be here. Yes?
Okay, excellent. You get the mic to lady.
I was once one of those people who was essentially a neocon. But it took my husband here and a clear look at who Jesus was, what he stood for, and what he actually came up against, to see that the principle of fighting wars overseas, I'm from the Reform tradition, which is John Calvin and those sort of people, and they had a principle called the just war principle. Augustine said, these are the reasons you can go to war, and these are the reasons why you shouldn't. A defensive war, for one thing, you've got to have a clear objective, you've got to have a moral principle behind it. And as I looked back at my tradition, And I attend both the Reformed congregation and the Messianic Jewish congregation, so I'm kind of on both sides of it. But when I looked back at that, I saw, you know what? Somebody did some serious study about who Jesus was and what he stood for. And I had to say, you know what? I can't stand with these guys anymore. I have to stand with the Libertarian Party. So, stand there.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Have another person, Council President, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
And Joe, if you want to come up here as soon as you're done with your phone call,
Sorry.
so that we can talk to people about what the prize of the drawing is. Go ahead.
Hey, John, wanted to get your opinion on this. When you're talking to people about libertarian philosophy and using, like today, I'm on your email list, by the way. It's great stuff.
Thank you. And everybody should sign up, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've been a follower of Downside of DC for years. It's been a great education. Here's my question. When you're talking about, like today, in one of your emails, you talked about 3 principles, one of them being reciprocity, that you live your life like you want to, but you also turn around and gotta let other people live a life like they want to. As long as you don't cause harm or harm somebody. But you'll have somebody that will say, well, you're harming people that are living the way they want to, could be harming the culture. Well, you're harming the culture, thereby you're harming me. Because I want to live in a more, let's say, a religious maybe culture. And because you're living your lifestyle the way you want, you're causing harm to me. And it's causing me harm. I can't sleep at night, and that kind of stuff. So how would you justify that?
The zero aggression principle deals with physical violence. What is proposed, and we make an issue political, is that if you disagree or you do not perform in the way that I believe you should perform, that Jack Foods, building clubs, and machine guns should show up and solve the problem. And that the solution is that you should, someone should steal from you in the form of a fine, or maybe you should be kidnapped and put in a box, we call it jail or prison, or if you resist these attempts to get you on the straight and narrow, we can kill you. This is what they're advocating. So I think that what we have to begin to do, and I even harkening back to the question I got asked here earlier about reaching out to believers. There's a word that we're going to be doing more and more and more with as time goes by. It's not an accident that we use the golden rule, but we're going to be talking about empathy. Empathy is the source of your rights. And what I mean by that is, we need to, the way that I have almost all my discussions on this stuff now, is I attempt to get people to put themselves in somebody else's shoes, to feel the pain of another person. Now, if I can't get that from them, we're not going to get anywhere. And you know what? Not everyone's going to agree with us. That's just life. And one of the things I wanted to illustrate with you tonight, and I could go further with other examples, is I don't think we need a majority or some super majority to agree with us to move the country in a markedly libertarian direction, maybe even to where I would like to see it go. I don't think we need everyone on board to do that. So, having said, I want them to feel that. I want them, so whatever their question is, if I had a specific thing that I was dealing with there, I would try to find a way. My brain, the way it would start to work is I would try to think golden rule, reciprocity, empathy. How do I get this framed in such a way that they start feeling something other than their own personal feeling? They actually get into somebody else's shoes. So that tends to be the way that I address issues specifically as they come up. As often as I'm able to do it, that's the way I prefer to go. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. You guys filled out paper. Everybody filled out a card, so you're in the drawing here. Do we have more? Okay. Did we already draw?
Oh, we drew.
We drew? Why don't we redraw? Why don't we get them in there? Get everybody in here. Any last minute strays? We got one more back there, so they can get in the drawing. And here's what you have a chance to win. We're going to draw 5 names. Harry Brown was my mentor. I worked for his campaign in the year 2000. He was the best libertarian spokesman ever. This was his campaign book in the year 2000. And we have some on hand, so we wanted to share them with you tonight as a kind of a raffle prize, if you will. This is The Great Libertarian Offer, is the name of the book. So you will very much enjoy it. We have 2 copies of this. We also have I mean, you know, this is hot stuff here, a VHS tape. This is the infomercial from the Harry Brown campaign. It's 23.5 minutes long. And we don't have it on 8-track yet, but it's coming. The real value of this particular piece, you probably do have an old VCR at home, and 22 minutes is how much time you will enjoy it. But the real value is that it's autographed. Harry Brown passed away in 2006, so there's no more autographs coming. So this is a collector's item. So we have 2 books and 3 videotapes that we're going to draw. We're doing the drawings right now. We're going to draw 5 names. I'll call them off, and then you can pick which one it is you want. As if this is a draft. So all 5 are going.
Pick one out.
Oh, we got one more to throw in there.
Oh, we have one more? Okay, well, I'll shuffle again.
You can just say he's too late. I don't care.
While we're waiting for the drawing, we have one more question. Last question.
Okay.
Yes, Bert. Get that
Question
mic.
I had about the,
He doesn't need
You want to pick one of the winners?
himself.
Pick one out. Okay.
okay, let's say some deadbeats show up and they
Another one?
murder Kevin and his wife because he doesn't
That
have
one?
time.
Okay.
And then
Let me have
Alex
Marissa
and I
pick
get a
2, okay?
posse together and hunt them down like that dog.
Where's
Ready to string them up, and the guy says, "It was my twin. It was my twin." But how's the Zach deal with loser, deadbeat, murderers, robbers, real criminals that are harming people, but manage to escape with their lives? And now you are therefore forced to use aggression to hunt them down, like the roundabout they are.
My definition of aggression, or the way that we're using the term aggression, is that it is initiated force. And it's the first punch. It is the first blow. It is somebody who has decided to, in order to get what they wanted, socially or even personally, because listen, most of what goes on in Washington, D.C. is about benefiting somebody. So we're saying that that is aggression and that is wrong. So I'm not, just so we don't confuse things. When I was in high school, we had our cheerleaders would be on the sidelines. They'd be like, "Be aggressive, be aggressive." I'm not talking about that. Okay, aggression has this very specific meaning. There are certain things that we can all agree are wrong. We don't have to belong to a certain religion. We don't have to have a certain moral code. We can all agree that we don't want, and they violate the zero aggression principle, that we don't want to be murdered, or we don't want our family members murdered, we don't want our stuff broken or stolen. Okay, we can agree on those things. And your posse, I would probably join. I'd probably hop on and go ride with you. Okay, so the rules that we have today, there's 2 things that would be significantly different. Number 1, lots of things that presently are crimes no longer would be. And so all of the various issues that we have with, maybe police violence in our streets that are so tied to the drug war and so forth, those things would be the past. So we would have a system that was at least as good as the one we have now, but I would argue considerably better, that would still track down and would use all of the tools of due process properly to convict, to arrest and convict someone who engaged in a crime such as murder. One of the things that happens when you start talking about this, and we actually have a lever about this. You can go read it. I'm not going to give it all away here tonight because I want you to go to my website. But we are not anarchists, and we explain why we're not that. Okay? My position as a voluntarist, my position as a purist on the zero aggression principle, is that I believe that there are governments all over the place, and that governments are a good thing. And we want governments. But there should be many of them, and here's the key thing, they should be voluntarily chosen. And in most cases, we should be able to get up and walk away from them. But we should all have the choice at first whether or not we're going to enter into that relationship. This little meeting we had tonight, whether you realize it or not, was governed. There was somebody who called it, who set the room up and planned the whole event, and he was the person that started off with the mic, and this is how it all works. Right. And nobody objected to it, and if you don't like it, you join another meeting, and you go somewhere else. That's how a voluntary society would work. And so, your posse, if something happens to them tonight, I don't have my gun with me, but I know how to shoot. Give me one. We can go. All right. Who do we got?
If there's any complaints, the kids will be back.
Okay. All right. Number 1 is Isaac Butler.
That's my son.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joyce. All right, very good. John Bolton. Videotape is already in your phone, so I have a feeling.
Oh, yeah, but he might not let me watch it.
These guys travel from
David.
Broward County, I understand, right?
David.
Palm Beach County. Think of the longest travel.
Oh, wow. David Garnoski. All right. Bert, I can't read your last name. Lithcomb. She wrote it. Come on up, Bert. We got 2 videos left for yours. And last but not least, Russ Wood. And again, thank you very, very much. Oh, thank you.
Mr. Babka, thanks very much for coming out and meeting us all. So glad you made some time for us, and appreciate all the fighting you do to lead the way for our efforts to liberty. So signing off, Libertarian Party, Hillsborough County, thanks you all for coming out. We are in a bar. There's food, there's sports on the screen. I know we're going to stick around and chat it up because that's when all the real work happens. And Alex, is there something you want to say? Yeah. Alex, is going to say something? We do have our state chairman in the room, Charles. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully everybody's doing well. A couple things I wanted to say. We did have an election on Tuesday. There was a couple candidates that were libertarians in the elections. The other day they didn't win, but they put up a good fight. So Joe Haynes, Brianna Kirkland down in the city of Homestead actually did a good job. But I came up here to tell you about something else. You know, I'm always trying to come up with ideas to help people out. So one of the ideas that I came up with, because most of you in here are very, very busy people, and you have a lot of things going on, but you still want to be able to help, but you need exact guidance on how to do that. So what I brought with me today, there are different petitions out there for cannabis. Sign them all, don't care which one you sign, which one you don't sign. However, the one that I'm putting up here says that you just have a right to cannabis, and we go from there. So we're trying to get as many petitions as we can. And what I did was, I created a little one single serving activist little toolkit here. So what it has is it has a return envelope. It has a yard sign that we have repurposed for a clipboard, along with a little gator clip right there. If anybody wants any of these tonight, I will give you one of these packages, along with a t-shirt, as long as I have the rest of the t-shirts and I have your sizes. You got 14 days and you can return this to me. You return it to me because I gave you a t-shirt, so I'm giving you something for your services beforehand. But it's got 25 petitions in them. You can go to your family and friends, whoever you want to, get them signed, return them to me. You keep the clipboard for a later time. So we'll have them over there on the side. Thank you very much.
So thanks for your hard work. So when you sign everything, we have voter registration clipboards on the table over here in case somebody's moved, they have to re-up. I think they're all in Spanish, but I can help translate for you. And we also have a bunch of information from the Zero Aggression Project. And again, we have events happening as soon as November 21st at USF. For those who are members of the local affiliate, we're having a bylaws revision on the 11th. So we're going to do that at a different place. Check out our website, reach feedback. So everybody, thanks very much. Keep up the hard work. Those of you who live in county here, we are 1 year away from our next election. So time to start dragging out the candidate prospects. So let's run through their paces. Thanks, everybody. and I think everybody heard that, right?